Okay, I'm here to cover the RPR lateral sling test. The test can be done on a table. This test is pretty amazing in regards to identifying issues along with the lateral sling and a bad lateral sling and some of the things it affects. I will definitely cover. It's just so everybody knows what a lateral sling is. These are different parts of the lateral sling and different lateral slings identified by various people. Drummond Education. If you want to click on this, I'll put this link in the description below in the slides. But it's just a group of muscles that help stabilize the hips from the lat to the glute med, everything along the guidelines of stability in your hips. And I'll cover a lot of things in this video, but you can do this test whether you know RPR or not to check if your athletes need and have this problem. Okay, so what you're about to see is the lateral sling test. You can do it on the floor, you can do it on a table. And I will stop this video as we go because the people I taught this to had already had classroom work so that we were able to move very quickly through this. So I will stop it, give you the relative information since you weren't in the course.
All right. So, lateral sling, ability to change directions. Glute med, I'm going to test his ability for his glute med to stabilize and prevent me from pushing him in. Ready?
So this athlete's laying on the table. I bring his glute out, and he's going to try to stop me from pushing it to the midline.
Hold. I saw him walk it. I knew it was off. It's not a
I saw him walking is what I'm meaning is that I identified him before he walked in that he had a problem. And through RPR, I've been able to identify people that have this problem.
secret. I picked him for a reason. Ready? Hold.
Both
Very
lateral,
good.
both lateral,
His ability to change.
both lateral slings are off. And when I say that, let me cover what's going to transpire. So here's the problems you have when you have a lateral sling. Everything in speed is an issue. Acceleration, lateral speed, change of direction, your squat depth, if the lateral sling is off. Because even if it's straight ahead running, top end speed, that has to deal with stability of the hip. The hip needs to stable, and the forces running through your body are a spiral in torque. I would actually almost argue vortex, but we can get into that some other time. Now, the change of direction. So what happens is if that glute med isn't working optimally, and I'm going to give you a little heads up, the glute med is not the problem, folks. What happens is your body, when you go to change direction, you can't stabilize in the low position because the glute med's off. So your body raises itself up in hopes to become more stable, which it will. It does the right thing. Acceleration, short stride, lateral speed, you can explode out. Squat depth, your brain goes, I am not stable in that position, so I am not going to hurt myself in that position. Now, when all this is unstable, you also have a tight back that follows. You have upper outside hamstring strains because in level 3 RPR, you will learn how this is tied together. You'll have groin issues, which will also lead to medial hamstring strains. Okay. You have various foot issues when this slings off. I see so many people talk about, hey, the athlete plays high, whether it's in football or hockey. Yep, it's because it's not a hip problem. It's a lateral sling problem 90% of the time, and that 90% is actually a foot problem, which you will test here in a second. Have tight hips. Why do they have tight hips? Because there's instability in the lateral sling in the foot, so the hip tightens down and the lower back tightens up to stabilize. The spine also tries to stabilize. The core muscles are always turned on, which you want them to turn on when they need to turn on and not all the time. Balance is a big thing. So if you fix this in an older adult, watch how it changes their gait. They can fix themselves. A shift in when you squat. So when your butt sneaks to the right or the left, if your butt sneaks to the right, then the left lateral sling is off. It's the opposite in that case. The valgus knees, many people think it's a glute med. When I check it, it is never the glute med. We have an arch problem, which we'll cover here in a second. There's many more things. These are the big things that I want you to be aware of. Okay, let's go. Well, I can cover this slide here. When you do an RPR reset lateral sling, I would do it in the weight room, or you practice. When I say skill, you're practicing your sport prior to our chiropractic adjustment, because what happens is, especially with the foot reset and the arch reset that we do, is that this whole lateral sling can shut off. If you have a bad lateral sling, the chiropractor may adjust you, but your muscles are going to pull in to restabilize. So this is just another factor that you'll see what happens with this test, how somebody become really strong and positive by running this test and then doing the resets.
Directions. Remember, this hip stabilizer's off. So he's going to be a little higher when he does stuff because he can't stabilize. So what I'm going to do real quick, he can fix it himself. I'm going to see if it's his hip. So I turn this muscle on, the glute med. I'm just rubbing it real quick. He can do it himself, but for time purposes, we got to get through a lot.
So the athlete could have hit his glute med, but I chose to just to get this going at the clinic. And what happens is I'm specifically turning on the glute med. Now the lateral sling is on the front of the hip. We could have hit that too, but I'm being very specific in this test to see if the reason this athlete can't stabilize is because that glute med's off.
All right, you ready? Hold. I locked him in. Ready? I locked him in.
So I hit the glute meds and it turned him on. But listen to the test and what transpires, you'll see that this is, as time shows, it's not the case. I did fix him right now, but here's the real test.
So now he's more stable. So when he ran, he just shifted his hip over as we talked yesterday, remember? Because this foot, or check, the hip can't stabilize. But why can't the hip stabilize? I have a feeling it's another reason. So I got him up, checked his hips. I want him to get up. I want you to just jump rope. I'm having him jump rope. Ready, go. Pretend jump rope. Or I could have him walk. I could have him sprint. I'm going to see if he actually has a foot problem now. Relax. Brain says foot struck the ground. If he has a foot problem, it'll shut that glute med off again. Lay on your back, same spot. So remember, I fixed him. I tested him. He was strong. Let's see what he's got. I don't know what he's got. Hold. Ready? Hold. Where'd it go? It didn't go anywhere. He broke. By getting him up, walking, running, or jumping rope, anything you do, he's got a bad foot, in my opinion. Let's see this side. This side could be locked in. Ready? Hold. There's nothing there, is there? So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the RPR arch reset with the foot so that the foot strengthens, all right? And we're going to jump rope again, and we're going to see if it shuts it off. So, I'm not going to hit the glute meds because I already hit him once. Ready? This is weak. Remember, this is weak. Ready? Hold. Hold. So now.
So if you remember, I had turned them on. They were strong on the table. He jumps rope. They completely shut off. Why? Because we got poor feedback from the ground. The brain goes, I'm not stable. Things aren't working correctly. So then I retested them. They were poor after the jumping rope. I'm going to now do the arch reset to see if the arch in this sling is the problem.
I'm going to hit the biggest reset in the foot. I don't think this is going to be fun for him. Now he can do it himself. Ready? Oh, what are you doing? Does that hurt? That's okay. Why are you sweating already? This is a bad spot. And again, my athletes do this to themselves. They hit this spot. So remember, I didn't hit the glute med, but I'm going to retest it. You watching? Hold. There we go. So the hip was shutting off, as we talked yesterday, because the foot couldn't stabilize. Seems like magic, but folks, this is just a sling. This sling runs here, crosses over, gets into the glute med, goes over to this side of the body, up to this arm, back.
So, I want you to understand that when that sling is off, when I talked about there, the arm swings out with each step. So if your left foot's on the ground, the right arm swings out to outside the body if the sling's off, okay, way outside to help you stabilize when you run. Okay, now the problem is many people will coach their athletes to hold their arms in. And then what happens too, it makes it worse, is that the core and the hips even become more stiff because everything stiffens up because there's not a natural sling in there to stabilize it. And what we have is, so I take the philosophy, I don't coach people on running. I actually fix the running flaws with RPR. So no, you can't run down the track fast. Think about holding your arms in and run as fast as possible. You need to fix the problem. I fix it with RPR and training to make sure the lateral sling's on so they don't run with their arms out.
Ready? Hold. Okay. I want you to jump rope. He's jumping rope. Go ahead. And if his foot, if the foot's not the problem, remember everything will shut off. Jump up there. We'll see. Ready? Hold. There it is. He's got foot problem.
So recap, this athlete, arch reset, the foot is stable now when he jumped up and down doing jump rope, or if he would run. A lot of things I talked about, he would squat deeper, he would do a lot of things much better athletically, and just move as a human, because the brain now knows I'm stable here. Guess what? This glute med can stay on.
Folks, which I knew, but I wanted to show you the process. Lateral sling test. Walk around, see if you feel anything different. What? Just tell us.
It's like my calves feel different, and my back was pretty tight coming in here.
Yep.
Doesn't bother me anymore.
So his back was tightening up because the instability in his foot, other things were locking down, which tightened up his back. Okay.
So folks, if you walk around 10 to 20,000 steps a day on an unstable foot with a bad arch, what happens is this whole muscular area, the hips and the spine, will tighten up. And that's the struggle with a lot of people. And then it affects your running and everything else that we talked about prior, and many, many things. Affects your breathing actually too, because it tightens up all this tissue. That's why the RPR breathing reset is really one of the few things that can just loosen up the tissue so that you now can have the correct breathing pattern, a lot of times without even coaching it. So, finishing the video.
Okay. He's not rotated when he walks as much. And that's RPR. He can do that to himself 3 minutes a day. All right? And then when you go train, now you're ingraining the right patterns.
And the 3 minutes a day is a full RPR reset, not just this part, but a full RPR. This part would take somebody 10 to 15 seconds.
Okay?
So getting back to the slides, I want to make sure, just review the sequencing of testing, complete the RPR lateral sling test. Okay, that was when he was on the table and I held his leg out and I pushed in and he couldn't stop me. Address the glute med, so hit the glute med specifically, okay? Have them jump rope, get back up, retest them after they've jumped rope, and then they'll fail. Then hit the arch reset, and then you basically come in and do the RPR test on the lateral sling after he does arch reset, and they'll be positive, they'll be strong, and then you can have them jump rope, do whatever, and then come back. So they should be better for at least a period of time, and you're hoping to strengthen their foot also. So we do this before we work out if somebody has an issue, and then we'll make sure that they're strengthening. And what happens is they'll strengthen their feet faster. So I know a lot of people do a lot of foot exercises. I don't do very many. I haven't found them to work that much. I have found spring ankle exercises, ankle rocker methods, and then there'll be a new one coming out called the arch ankle. I'll be doing that video soon. and posting it. Those would be the 3 things for athletes that are really quick. All the other ones do work. I'm not saying they don't. I just don't have all the time in the world to do foot exercises for hours a day or weeks. So anyway, the biggest thing with this is that if you hit that before you do your foot exercises or your train, then you should be set. Key factors went to implementing this lateral sling reset. The biggest thing is when I do a reset, this should be reset there, and I check the glute med, here's what I've seen, and I know I'm going to get hate mail for this, but I've done this test more than 1,000 times, a few thousand. And what I'll do, and I've checked this, is that I have them test, find a bad one. People go activate their glute med with all these exercises, and they retest. And guess what? It never has gotten better. Only 2 people out of thousands of tests. And the reason is they had a strong foot. Okay. And they get a little bit better. But, and I don't know why, there's some pain factors in there. But what I'm telling you is, I've only seen the glute med exercises make them worse. And I know I've showed physical therapists that get extremely upset with me because they've been preaching glute med exercises for the last 15 years and they never tested them. Just do this test to see if it works. So real quick, the level 1 lateral sling reset, to review, like these are all basically in our level 1 activation. So this is why it works, but it's the arch reset, the lateral sling reset, which is inside the hip. The opposite lat would reset this, and then the anti-rotation would help with that also. Okay, that's in our level 1 course. That's what would happen. The level 2, you do the tib reset, and then the level 2, basically the primary compensation breakup part of the glute med would also help with the lateral sling. So the athlete would address the lateral sling and the opposite QL at the same time. And then for our level 3 reset courses, you would learn the various lateral sling tests taught in level 3, which would be, it kind of helps you get through someone being duck or slew-toed and then or pigeon-toed, and you can test with the lateral sling the variations we teach in our advanced level 3 course so that you can identify the fibers actually. So what happens is you identify the fibers and specifically address that, and then you can clear the things connected to those fibers, which I hinted in here, but I didn't make clear, but that's in our level 3, we make extremely clear. And then we use a fiber clearance method in our level 3 to make sure that these things are addressed. People are rock solid with this lateral sling, which is very important. And from that point, we have some amazing results in regards to running, pain that leaves, backs that loosen up, and on and on.